discovered the incredible truth after he said, "Get out." A hidden transformation unfolds. Tom stood frozen in Richard's office, the echo of the words "get out" reverberating through him like a hammer on steel. Years of toil and sweat distilled into that single dismissal felt like a knife to the gut. He wasn't just a mechanic, he was a husband, a father, and now, with those 2 words, he felt stripped of everything he built. How could he have let this happen? As he left the garage, the scent of autumn leaves wafted in the air, sharp and biting, reminding him of his children playing in piles of leaves, their laughter filled with possibilities he could no longer see. Each footstep home grew heavier. Doubt wormed its way through the fabric of his resolve. He had sacrificed so much for this job, always telling himself it was for the family. But had he? As he passed the familiar storefronts of Maplewood, a place once brimming with dreams for him, it now felt like a cage, tight and confining. What would he tell Lisa? The gnawing anxiety clawed at him. Without the safety of a paycheck, how would they make ends meet? Would he be seen as a failure in his children's eyes? A dad who couldn't provide? When he reached home, he climbed to the attic, seeking solace in dusty memories. There, amidst the cobwebs and forgotten toys, he found an old box. It was filled with letters from his grandfather, dreams and schematics of inventions that never surfaced into reality. As he scanned the letters, something inside him flickered to life, a glimmer of creativity he thought he had buried beneath oil and grease. The passion in those words reminded him of the potential that lay dormant within himself, the very spirit Richard had tried to snuff out. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Motivated, Tom took a leap and enrolled in a community college engineering program, surprising even himself. His friends warned him about the challenges, balancing work and study, tuition bills piling up. He felt unsteady, stepping into a world he had long abandoned, yet the thrill of learning ignited something raw. Dr. Williams, the elderly professor with a keen eye and unwavering belief in Tom's potential, fueled a determination inside him. Night after night, they would pore over designs, and for the first time, Tom felt the exhilaration of creation. But just when the ambition began to supersede his fears, Richard resurfaced, offering him a way back to the garage with a raise that made it all the more tempting. All he had to do was forget the dreams he had rekindled. Tom clenched the invitation, wrestling with the seductive weight of security against his fluttering hope for a different life. The past dangled before him, familiar and warm, but he could feel the resistance to silence the voice urging him to follow the path to which he was drawn. Standing on the precipice between two worlds, the tension within Tom escalated to a breaking point. Would he lose the courage to pursue his potential? Would he stifle the whisper of his grandfather's aspirations? Uneasy breaths filled his chest as he faced the looming decision. The fear of failure gnawed at him, enveloping his thoughts, yet deep down, a fierce pulse of rebellion surged. As he prepared to confront Richard, a realization struck him hard. The price of choosing safety was chipping away at the very core of who he was. Would he dive into the unknown, or slip back into the suffocating embrace of his former life? The battle within him ignited, leaving the audience anxiously awaiting the choices to come. Tom awoke the next morning to a sun that felt more like a spotlight, illuminating both his fears and newfound resolve. The cold, biting air contrasted sharply with the warmth of determination slowly building within him. This was the day he would confront both Richard and the uncertainty of his future. Breakfast felt heavy with unspoken words. Lisa watched him intently, noticing the flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "You okay?" she finally asked, pouring coffee into her mug, her concern palpable. Tom paused. The familiar urge to downplay his feelings surged within him, but something held him back. There was a swell of truth to be shared. "Actually, I'm thinking about going back to school for engineering," he admitted, his voice barely more than a whisper, fearing her reaction. "Engineering? That's incredible." Lisa's eyes widened, but then her brow furrowed. "But what about work? The kids need—" "I understand, but—" he broke off, wrestling with his own thoughts. The words spilled out in a rush. "I want to be more than just a cog in that garage. I've spent years under the hood, but I want to build things, create. I feel like I've lost myself." Lisa studied him for a long moment. "If that's what you want, then you should go for it, Tom. Just know it's going to be tough." Her support breathed life into him, a promise of understanding and teamwork. With a clarified sense of purpose, he finished breakfast and set the stage for what he previously feared. He pulled up outside the garage, a familiar sight that now bore the weight of his long-held expectations and dreams deferred. As he stepped inside, the sense of oil and metal heralded his arrival. Richard was in the office, pacing as he reviewed a stack of invoices. The sight of his former boss ignited the conflict within him, as his resolve hardened into something more tangible. Richard looked up and began, "Tom, about yesterday." "No." Tom raised his hand, a surprising force emanating from within. "I've made my decision. I won't be coming back." Richard's brow furrowed, confusion melding with surprise. "You can't be serious. A raise, benefits, it's all here for you." Tom took a step forward, each word carved from the granite of his determination. "But at what cost? I spent too long standing still, waiting for in a comfortable place that held me back. I want to create, to innovate, and you are offering me a way back to a life I no longer want." Richard faltered, not expecting this confrontation. "You think this is better? Sure, take your chance, but don't come crying to me if you fall flat," he said, masking vulnerability with irritation. A charge coursed through Tom. The dismissal that once shattered him now fueled his defiance. "I likely will fall, but I will fall forward, learning every step and taking risks that matter to me." With those words, he took a measured breath, allowing the gravity of his decision to settle firmly in his chest. Stepping away from the swirling chaos in Richard's office, Tom walked out of the garage feeling lighter, unshackled. As the door closed behind him, an unexpected rush of possibilities flooded his mind. He envisioned blueprints with notes scattered across them, futures shaped by his hands. The journey ahead might be perilous, laden with uncertainty, but that mystery held a magnetic pull. Yet upon arrival at his car, doubts seized him. Was he truly equipped for this new world? Would his lack of knowledge and experience hold him back? The nagging fear whispered, drowning out the echoes of ambition. Could he face an adversary more daunting than Richard? The inner critic that thrived on his insecurities? The moment of truth loomed, and Tom could already feel the next decisive challenge swirling in the air. What if this leap of faith was just the beginning? Just how far was he willing to go to discover the depths of his potential? The drive home felt surreal for Tom, the road blurring like the edges of his previous life, softening with each passing mile. His heart raced, not from fear, but from a blend of exhilaration and uncertainty. He hadn't anticipated the dizzying freedom that accompanied his decision, nor the weight of what lay ahead. Would there be a shattered sense of self in pursuit of his newfound dreams, or a resurgence of identity that had long lain dormant? As he parked the car in the driveway, he took a moment to steady himself. The home he had created with Lisa and their children was not just a physical structure. It was a maze of memories, echoes of laughter and responsibilities. Reality sank in. Pursuing engineering may very well divert him from the routine that had cradled them all. The thought of failing to provide weighed heavily, like an anchor submerged in the depths of his consciousness. "Hey, Dad!" his daughter Ella called out, running towards him. Her bright smile momentarily bled away his anxious thoughts. "You just got back from work? Can we go to the park?" Her enthusiasm cut through the haze, reminding him that fatherhood remained a cornerstone of his identity. "Sure, how about later?" he replied, ruffling her hair, though his mind skittered back to the uncertain future ahead. As the evening wore on, he found comfort in helping with dinner. Slicing vegetables, he absent-mindedly transitioned between thoughts of academic pursuits and driving the knife through the crispness of the bell peppers. The tactile sensation grounded him, a reminder that he would have to dig into the new soil of his life. Chopping was a way of manifesting the transformation he desired, turning raw potential into something whole. "Thinking about something?" Lisa asked quietly, leaning against the counter with an encouraging smile. Her ability to read him never ceased to amaze him, but it also terrified him. He had so much he needed to process. "Just the future," he sighed, wiping his hands on a towel before looking her in the eye. "It's a bit daunting, you know. Engineering sounds good, but I have no idea what college life will be like. What if I'm just drawing from a well of unfulfilled dreams?" Lisa nodded, her expression serious, yet warm. "You have to trust that the well is deep. You've always been resourceful, Tom. You fix things, cars, relationships. Why wouldn't you figure out how to navigate your education?" Her unwavering support reignited his determination. Could he truly harness that resourcefulness in a classroom setting? A spark of realization surged. He would be building more than just structures. He would sculpt a newfound version of himself. As the weekend unfolded, Tom started researching engineering programs, drawing up lists, weighing pros and cons. Every page he scrolled through felt like a revelation, each program a potential launch pad into the future he longed for. He felt the weight lifting. He was gaining momentum. Meanwhile, recurring doubts also resurfaced. Was he wise enough? Old enough? Suddenly, self-doubt transformed into a new path of inquiry. He spent hours on forums, immersed in conversations with students and professionals alike. It was humbling and empowering, each interaction reinforcing the idea that he was not alone. But every bit of progress brought fresh determination paired with growing fear. On Monday, as he sat at his workbench, meticulously sorting through parts for the repairs ahead, he felt a strange sense of loss, mixed with exhilaration. The garage was still vibrant with energy, familiar yet stifling in contrast to what lay ahead. Tom glanced around, absorbing the memories locked in the rusted wrenches and worn-out tools. Suddenly, he felt an unexpected rush of gratitude. He mentally prepared for what came next. The thought of stepping into a classroom wafted through the air like new paint. Suddenly, the past didn't feel like an anchor, but a springboard. However, just as he began to feel a sense of clarity, a message popped up on his phone. An old friend from high school, Sam, was in town and wanted to meet up. Their paths had diverged long ago, but Sam had taken a different route in life, one that had led him to a lucrative engineering career. Would he be a source of wisdom, or a reminder of Tom's late awakening? The invitation felt like a pivotal moment, a possible crossroads that could either propel him forward or draw him back into the shadows of self-doubt. The decision loomed like a thick fog, enticing yet intimidating. Would this meeting be a catalyst for courage, or would it sow new seeds of insecurity? Tom stared at the message, grappling with his next move, ready to confront the questions swirling in his head. Tom's fingers hovered over the screen, caught between nostalgia and an opportunity he hadn't anticipated. In high school, Sam was always 10 steps ahead, a constant reminder of the what-ifs that loomed in the corridors of his mind. Agreeing to meet could either illuminate a path forward or echo his missed chances. Who was he now, after all these years? He took a deep breath, the scent of fresh-cut vegetables lingering in the kitchen grounding him. A decision had to be made. Instinctively, he leaned toward the philosophy Lisa embodied, to see the potential in every encounter. Sending a quick reply, he felt a shiver of anticipation. Without fully understanding why, his pulse quickened at the thought of reconnecting with an old friend who had inevitably shaped his perspective. That evening, the house filled with the familiar sounds of laughter and the joyful chatter of children. Yet, beneath the surface of ordinary life, an undercurrent of anxiety tugged at Tom. As he tucked Ella into bed, her soft voice asking about his future painted a vivid image of both promise and turmoil. "Dad, are you going to be an engineer like the ones you talk about?" "Maybe," he said, forcing confidence into his tone. "I'm going to figure it all out." "Promise?" she pressed, her eyes wide and trusting. He smiled, warmth flooding through him. "I promise." As he prepared for his meeting with Sam, an array of feelings swirled: excitement, fear, and unexpected hope. Would Sam offer insights from his own journey, or would he magnify the envy that crept into Tom's heart? He shook his head, reminding himself that this was a chance to confront the past. In an intimate cafe, the familiarity of their former friendship hung in the air like a warm breeze. The conversations flowed easily, punctuated by memories of teenage antics intermingling with snippets of their adult lives. "So, engineering, huh?" Sam inquired, his tone genuine but curious. "What made you consider it?" Tom felt exposed, as if he was standing that high school hall, ready to reveal not just his changing aspirations, but the innate struggle entangled with them. "I guess I was tired of feeling stuck. I want to build something tangible, to dive into the world of creation instead of repairs," he confessed, monitoring Sam's reaction closely. "Repairing is also building, you know," Sam replied thoughtfully. "It demands a unique skill set. Not everyone can do it as well as you." Tom examined the sincerity in Sam's eyes. There was nothing patronizing in the words, just recognition. That acknowledgement flickered warmth inside him, yet a nagging voice protested. Was he really worthy of this new identity? "It's just that it feels overwhelming at times." "What if I fail?" "It's supposed to be overwhelming," Sam stated, leaning forward with intensity. "Embrace it. Growth doesn't come from comfort. Remember how we struggled through high school together? We learned more from the tough times than the easy finds." That hit home. The conversation shifted and broadened, diving into topics that revealed the wounds and lessons of their separate journeys. Tom recognized a reflection of his own insecurities in Sam, who now shared vulnerabilities, painting a more complex picture of success, fraught, human, layered. As time slipped by, Tom's unease began to fade into determination. Their reconnection blurred the lines of competition and fostered camaraderie. He felt fortified, inspired by the relatability of Sam's journey. But just as the swell of optimism burgeoned within him, Sam dropped a weighty question. "What are you waiting for, Tom? You've got to take that leap. If not now, then when?" The convivial atmosphere shifted. Sam's question hung thickly in the air, intertwining with Tom's swirling thoughts like a whisper from the universe. What was he waiting for? Was he truly committed to his pursuit, or was he still lingering in shadows of hesitation? Tom could feel his heartbeat, a steady drum echoing the emerging resolve within him. The path loomed ahead, fraught with uncertainty, but tantalizingly inviting all the same. After years of waiting, could he finally grasp the momentum needed for his new beginning? As he reluctantly stood to leave, a strong resolve settled in him, a resolve that whispered of the hard choices ahead. "Let's not lose touch," he said to Sam, the weight of his words lingering. Unbeknownst to him, this parting sentiment would not only bind them, but also propel Tom toward his next significant challenge. Enrolled entirely in a college course, confronting a room full of future engineers. Would he dare step into that world, or would he hesitate at the threshold once again? The moment loomed like a curtain call, calling forth the now or never choice that awaited him. The morning air was crisp as Tom stood at the entrance of the college on his first day. The towering buildings, each capturing a slice of ambition and held together by the steady rhythm of students, gave him a sense of being both part of something grand and utterly misplaced. His heart raced. Anxiety seeped through his skin as if to announce his presence among intellects more seasoned than his. With each step, he assessed the landscape of his aspirations and the echoes of self-doubt. Could he truly belong here, surrounded by individuals clad in an air of confidence? The path illuminated by Sam's encouragement clashed violently with the whispers of his own limitations. Entering the lecture hall, he was greeted by rows of bright, eager faces, all looking at a figure at the front who radiated authority and knowledge. Tom took a seat in the back, strategically distancing himself from the eyes that seemed to appreciate the subject matter even before it was divulged. The lecturer launched into complex theories and equations, a glimpse into a world he yearned to master but was perilously afraid to tackle. With every syllable spoken, Tom's internal monologue twisted within him. Adrenaline gave way to a familiar anxiety as his thoughts spiraled. What if he didn't grasp the concepts? What if he, once again, became a figure frozen in the walls of self-doubt? But then he recalled Sam's words. "What are you waiting for?" It was a warm ember of motivation, sparking a revolt against his self-imposed limitations. Deciding not to be a passive observer this time, Tom's hand shot up during a discussion about engineering principles. The question fell from his lips before he could second-guess it. How do we balance innovative design with practical function? His voice wavered a bit, but it was a question that fused both curiosity and urgency, a glint of determination battling against his trepidation. The moment his query resonated in the air, an unexpected clarity washed over him. The lecturer's affirmation and the nodding heads of peers brought an exhilarating rush. Yes, dialogue. Interaction was within reach, an embrace of what that world had to offer, an entry point where he could challenge his narrative. As days morphed into weeks, Tom found himself more engaged, resulting in startling growth. He thrived in discussions, collaborated on projects, and even began forming connections with classmates. The shift wasn't merely academic. He was peeling away layers of fear and self-doubt, evolving into a man who spoke his truth and sought understanding. Yet, between his classes, a nagging feeling lingered. The deeper he delved into his studies, the clearer it became. His past experience with repairs was more than just a comfort zone. It was a foundation. Suddenly, memories flooded back, showcasing how each repair had molded him, teaching resilience. He just hadn't recognized it as part of his path to engineering. Tom began organizing study groups, drawing from his knack for explaining complex constructions. Once an afterthought became an engaging talent he didn't know he had. Each session solidified his understanding and confidence. But alongside that came a growing fear of vulnerability, a fear that each new skill may expose an underlying inadequacy that hasn't entirely vanished. Then, one evening, lost in thought while reviewing his notes, he received a surprise text from Sam. "How's the course? Are you ready to reveal that hidden talent? Time for action." The message ignited a flicker of apprehension mixed with excitement. Was he ready to publicly acknowledge not only his newfound skills, but the struggles he endured to get there? Tom stared at the screen, weighing the implications of Sam's words. The moment was here. Facing his fear of vulnerability was a new leap, one that had the potential to forge his identity further. The urgency pressed upon him. Would he step into the light and embrace all he had become? The weight of his potential hung in the balance, ready to tip. As he began to draft a response to Sam, uncertainty clashed with resolve, a dichotomy that mirrored his journey thus far. Would he seize this moment or falter back into the shadows? The decision loomed, and with it, the next step in shaping the future he yearned for was just a click away. Tom's thumb hovered over the screen, his heart racing as he battled an internal tempest. Could he truly reveal himself to Sam? To anyone? Confronting his fears head-on was a daunting proposition, but there was a flicker of something familiar gnawing at him, a stubborn defiance that refused to be snuffed out. He exhaled slowly, holding the phone as if it were a stopwatch counting down his next moment of truth. In that heartbeat of hesitation, Tom realized this was more than just a response. It was a crossroad. It represented weeks of discovery, the gradual peeling away of layers he didn't know were so firmly entrenched. With a wavering resolve, he finally typed and hit send. "I'm ready. Let's meet this weekend." The moment his message was sent, a wave of anxiety crashed over him. What had he just committed to? This wasn't just about showcasing his newly acquired skills. It was an invitation to confront every self-doubt that had plagued him for years. As the clock ticked, he reflected on the vulnerability he had felt in those study groups. Slowly but surely, he was learning to navigate his fears. The exhilaration from discussion spurred him on to embrace who he was becoming. The weekend unfolded in a blur, the anticipation gnawing at him as he prepared to meet Sam. They settled into a small cafe, the rhythmic clinking of cups surrounding them like an uninvited nervousness. Sam's presence was reassuring, calm, and he sensed a palpable energy emanating from his friend, a silent support. "You said you were ready to reveal your talent," Sam prompted, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. Tom swallowed hard, feeling the trepidation creep back. "It's just that. I feel like I'm still navigating through the fog," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just about knowing the material. I'm afraid of being exposed, of showing that I still don't have it all together." The air hung heavy between them as Sam leaned in, sparks igniting the conversation. "We all start somewhere, Tom. Your journey has value even amidst uncertainty. What if you reframed this? Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, how about using it as fuel? You've come so far already." An internal shift began as recognition dawned on him. This wasn't solely about being the best, but opening the windows for growth while accepting the rough edges within him, the struggle that shaped him. Suddenly, the realization crystallized. His hands-on past wasn't a detour. It was integral to who he was. Each repair, each moment of failure had forged resilience. If he could share that experience authentically, it could inspire others navigating the same rough waters. The conversation flowed like a cascade, ideas sparking as they discussed launching a small workshop, emphasizing practical skills alongside theory. The blend of their knowledge would fill a niche, something that hadn't been explored in their course. Would it be audacious to combine their talents? Tom could feel the thrill of possibility coursing through him. The prospect of vulnerability became less daunting, transitioning into something buoyant. It painted a new picture. He wasn't merely revealing his talent, he was building a community, fostering learning. Yet, as the idea expanded, so did the weight of expectation. What if the workshop fell flat? The specter of doubt lingered close. Would he still falter when it truly counted? As they finalized the details, Tom found himself oscillating between excitement and unease. He was standing on the brink of a transformative moment and feeling the pull of apprehension. What awaited him beyond this threshold? Determined, he clasped Sam's hand, firm in the decision. "Let's do it. I'll lead the first session, and even if I stumble, I'll own it." Sam grinned, empowerment radiant in his eyes. "Exactly. Even in stumbles, there's progress. Let's get to work." Days turned into nights of preparation as they meticulously pieced together the framework of the workshop, each meeting solidifying not just plans, but their camaraderie. With every step, Tom noted the growing excitement inside him, a burgeoning belief that allowing himself to be vulnerable could birth new possibilities. Yet, doubts swirled around him like storm clouds. With the workshop only a week away, the creeping anxiety whispered questions about his capability. Was he truly prepared to take the plunge? As he lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, a familiar flicker of doubt threatened to drown out the newfound hope. The enormity of what he was about to do loomed larger than ever. The night wore on, heavy with internal conflict, and a time of reckoning loomed closer. Did he have what it took to step into a role not just as a participant, but as a leader? The answers were elusive, just out of reach, his potential flickering in the shadow of uncertainty, waiting for the dawn to break. Would he find the strength to embrace this crucial moment, or would fear chain him to the sidelines once again? Caught in this contemplative whirl, Tom lay between determination and trepidation, the threshold of transformation inching ever closer. What would happen when the time for action arrived? The morning light seeped through the cracks in the blinds, transforming shadows into golden warmth. Tom's heart raced, not just from the anticipation of the workshop, but from the possibilities that lay within its uncertain parameters. Today would be different. Today, he would own his narrative. As he dressed, a flicker of purpose ignited within him, battling back the ghosts of self-doubt that plagued him. He arrived at the community space early. The chairs were neatly arranged, the whiteboard gleaming like a blank canvas awaiting strokes of insight. Contemplation filled the corners of the room. Who would show up? What if no one came? Would the fear of abandonment reign over the potential for connection? As the minutes dragged by, Tom paced, rehearsing his introduction in hushed whispers. He could almost hear Sam's reassuring voice, urging him to remember why they were here. It wasn't about perfection. It was about progress, about bringing value through vulnerability. The mantra resonated. Imperfections are opportunities for connection. A small group trickled in just as Tom took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. Sam arrived too, a beacon of steady energy. As he took his seat among the participants, Tom felt buoyed by his presence. When the last participant settled in, Tom cleared his throat, feeling the weight of their eyes draw him into clarity, yet tightening his chest like a vice. "Welcome, everyone," he began, his voice steadier than he expected. "Today isn't just about me sharing what I know. Instead, it's about all of us creating a space to learn from each other. I hope we can embrace openness and leave fear at the door." There it was. The room breathed in his statement, each person involved becoming part of the collective promise. Tom flicked his gaze around the room and saw nods of understanding. The acknowledgement of shared vulnerability transformed his trepidation into something palpable, something motivating. He launched into the first exercise, designed to prompt each participant to share their experiences and expectations. As they spoke, fragments of their aspirations, dreams of personal growth, newfound skills, and the recognition of their own stumbles began connecting like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. With each shared thought, the haze of Tom's anxiety dissipated, replaced by an exhilarating sense of community and a keen awareness of the human element in learning. Midway through the session, a participant named Alicia hesitated, wringing her hands. "I struggle to communicate my ideas," she confessed, her voice cracking. "What if I say something wrong? What if everyone judges me?" Tom felt an immediate surge of empathy. Her plight resonated deeply within him. "You're not alone in that fear, Alicia," he replied, channeling the vulnerability he had come to embrace. "I think we all wrestle with that battle, myself included. But just think, what if your ideas can inspire someone else here?" Encouragement rippled through the group, and Tom realized he wasn't just teaching. He was facilitating a pivotal moment for each person in that room, including himself. The connection forged in genuine candidness fostered an atmosphere where fear transformed into opportunity. As the workshop unfolded, laughter and shared experiences punctuated the air, reminding them of the joys of learning. Tom led practice scenarios, guiding participants as they interacted and stumbled, celebrating their learning experiences as a process rather than a product. Step by step, he dismantled the walls of inhibition, barely aware of the transformation occurring within him. By the time they reached the conclusion, an electric energy tingled in the room, steeped in camaraderie and mutual respect. The epiphany flooded through Tom's mind. He had transcended his fears, evolving from a passive participant to an empowered leader. As the group offered feedback, words of positivity flowed back to him, nourishing his spirit. He soaked it in, allowing the moment to root itself deep within his newfound sense of identity. Yet, with the aftermath of the workshop still enveloping him, a flicker of concern crashed through him. This experience had offered a glimpse into the leader he could be, but what of long-term commitment? As exhilarating as today felt, could he truly transform this into a consistent flow of courage and growth? The question loomed ominously in his mind as the group dispersed, leaving him standing alone amidst the remnants of his workshop, the buzz of excitement fading but clarity growing. How would he uphold this newfound identity and inspire others to follow suit? Without answers, Tom felt the horizon of his journey stretching out before him, a new threshold just beginning to unveil itself. What awaited him in this uncharted territory? Would he brave it alone, or would he summon his newly found community to explore the expanse together? As the last participant left, Tom stood still in the now empty room. The remnants of the vibrant energy they had shared seemed to resonate against the stark walls. He wiped the whiteboard clean, erasing the inputs that represented shared hopes and aspirations. Yet, as he scrubbed the surface, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was unfolding within him, an emergence of desires and responsibilities intertwined with fear and uncertainty. An unwelcome thought nagged at him. What if this was merely a flash of brilliance, a fleeting moment that would vanish like morning dew? Had he truly found his voice, or was it an illusion? He leaned against the table, wrestling with the gravity of leadership. The concept felt alien despite the taste of success from that day's workshop. Could he replicate this experience, foster growth, and build the bridge from potential to consistent achievement? Before he could spiral deeper into doubt, his phone buzzed violently on the table. It was a message from Sam. "Hey, great job today. Let's grab coffee and debrief." Relief washed over Tom as he read the words. He could lean on Sam, delve deeper into the complexities of this newfound leadership role, and perhaps even find guidance on how to maintain the momentum he had generated. The cafe buzzed with life, a contrast to the solitude he'd left behind. Sam's voice cut through the noise, both engaging and grounded. "What do you think made this workshop different for you?" he asked, leaning forward, his eyes keen with interest. Tom paused, reflecting. "I could feel the tension lift as we shared. I was terrified at first, but seeing everyone open up, it empowered me to be more authentic. I wasn't just a presenter. I felt like a facilitator. But now, what if I can't do it again?" Sam nodded, intuitive as always. "You built that connection through vulnerability, and it resonated with everyone. The key is to continue embodying that authenticity. Don't forget it's a process. Cultivate that space in your next sessions." Tom's heart surged at Sam's encouragement, yet doubt still flickered at the edges of his consciousness. But how do I ensure that wasn't just a one-time experience? How do I inspire others consistently? "We're all learning," Sam said, leaning back thoughtfully. "Perhaps find a way to share your journey, your struggles, your growth. Those are the elements that create relatability. You're evolving, and there's immense power in being transparent about that evolution." Taking a sip of coffee, Tom contemplated Sam's words. The notion of transparency ignited a spark within him, yet the implications sent a shiver down his spine. To reveal his flaws and uncertainties meant exposure, a risk he had skirted around until now. What if people didn't resonate with his honesty? What if the visions of a courageous leader disintegrated when met with scrutiny? The weight of expectation mixed with vulnerability wrapped around his chest, prompting a decision. "I want to write about this, share my experiences more publicly," he confessed. "Document my journey as a leader." "Then do it," Sam urged, eyes brightening with approval. "Your story could connect with so many who feel lost. You're walking the path. There's value in sharing both the missteps and the victories." Tom nodded slowly, allowing the idea to settle. He could create a blog or a series of videos, documenting the highs and lows of stepping into this role. But immediately, new fears surfaced. Who would want to read his thoughts? What if he failed to communicate his message effectively? "I can't just start writing. I have to plan it out," Tom mumbled under his breath, fighting off the paralysis creeping into his thoughts. "Planning is good, but don't let overthinking prevent you from taking action," Sam countered, his voice steady and calming. The conversation left Tom feeling invigorated but on edge, an awareness of the crucial moment intersecting fear and opportunity. His heart raced with the prospect of blending courage with articulation, while the shadows of doubt loomed closer. As he left the cafe, the tension inside him crackled like static electricity, evidencing the extent of the inner turmoil that lay ahead. How would he embrace the depth of his own narrative? What awaited him if he exposed this evolving self and risked the inevitable scrutiny? Drawing a deep breath as he walked away, Tom felt the lines between fear and growth begin to blur, leaving an unsettling anticipation in their wake. Was he ready to confront the doubts chaining him, or would he continue to linger in the safe shadows? The next morning brought with it an unusual blend of excitement and dread. Tom planted himself at his desk, staring at a blank screen that felt insurmountable. The cursor blinked back at him, taunting him with both promise and paralysis. He had a vision of what he wanted to communicate. He just couldn't articulate it. He took a breath, attempting to draw inspiration from Sam's encouragement. Yet, as he sat there, cold coffee beside him and a notebook filled with haphazard jots and doodles, the fear of judgment loomed large. What if his writing didn't resonate? What if it exposed him as a fraud? Pushing the what-ifs aside, Tom reached for his notebook. He flipped through pages that chronicled his thoughts about leadership and authenticity. Perhaps it was time to document not just the triumphs, but also the tangled emotions behind each step he took. What fear drove him? What moments had fostered his growth? With renewed determination, he scribbled down the first few lines, each word feeling like a step off a ledge, a leap into the unknown. "This is harder than I thought," he admitted aloud, the room echoing with his inner turmoil. Each sentence turned into a wrestling match with himself. The struggle to convey profound insights while remaining relatable proved daunting. He opted for a more personal entry, a story about confronting his fear the previous day in the workshop. He relived that pivotal moment, the exact feeling as he watched participants open up. The authenticity of shared struggles had forged a powerful connection. That connection was magical, but nebulous. Suddenly, an image of his earlier interactions rushed into his mind, the laughter, the tears, the collective sighs of relief. He realized he wasn't merely writing about being a leader, he was sharing the human side of it. And as he paused for a moment, he understood that exposing his vulnerability might hold the key to empowering others. Tom's fingers flew over the keyboard, and for the first time, the words flowed freely. Piece by piece, an article emerged that was raw, genuine, and a reflection of both his trials and victories. He wrote through the swirling doubts, feeling the catharsis that came from transforming confusion into expression. Yet, as he clicked save, a wave of apprehension washed over him. Was he really ready to share this piece? What would his colleagues say? Would they validate his journey or dismiss it? The anxiety felt suffocating, and he muttered to himself, "It's just a draft. I can edit later." But deep down, he couldn't shake the growing sense that there was something larger at play. Each word was like a stepping stone, leading him further into unfamiliar territory. Vulnerability was not simply a buzzword. It was becoming the bedrock of his leadership journey. Tom spent hours refining the piece, but as dusk descended, a new tension gripped him. He hesitated, hovering over the publish button. The deeper question gnawed at him. What if this was an invitation for critics to lay bare his insecurities? The struggle between fear and courage ignited his internal engine. Was he prepared to become the person he envisioned in those fleeting moments of clarity? With a determined exhale, he considered Sam's earlier words again. the power of story, the value of shared experiences. Summoning every ounce of bravery, Tom pressed, "Publish." It felt as if he had just stripped away layers of armor he never realized he'd put on. The notification chimed in to confirm his release into the world. A brief surfer's high, accompanied by a deeper, oppressive weight in his chest, made him aware that this was not the end, but only the beginning of his journey. He had entered the arena, but which battles awaited him now? Unsettled, yet invigorated, Tom leaned back in his chair, contemplating the paths that lay before him. What challenges awaited in the wake of unveiling his truth? How would others respond? And more importantly, how would he respond to their responses? With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, Tom prepared to confront whatever came next, sensing an inevitable collision between his aspirations and the unpredictable nature of public vulnerability. Was this his moment of transformation, or was he simply stepping into a tempest? Tom stood in front of the mirror, examining his reflection for signs of the man he was becoming. The uncertainty he felt in the beginning had morphed into a deep, resonating strength. He no longer recognized the man who had slunk away from Richard's garage in despair. Instead, he saw a determined individual hungry for growth and change. The workshop was a resounding success, but it was what followed that would prove the true test of his mettle. In the days after publishing his initial article, Tom's phone buzzed constantly. Each notification brought a rush of anticipation. Every comment and message validated the courage it took to share his journey. People reached out, sharing their stories, their struggles, and the hope that his words had ignited within them. What had once felt like an isolated path was now an intricate tapestry of shared experiences, binding them through authenticity. With renewed purpose, Tom decided to establish a regular mentorship group. Inspired by the success of his workshop and the connections it fostered, he proposed creating a safe space to explore personal and professional development within the community. The response was overwhelming. The enrollment list filled up quickly. Now, he wasn't just leading his peers. He was building a sanctuary for dreamers and doers like himself. As the first meeting approached, Tom felt a familiar flutter of nerves. Standing in front of a new group would be daunting, but now he welcomed the fear as a sign of growth. After all, this presentation had transformed from solely about teaching into an opportunity to learn collectively. He was no longer just a leader, but a guide on a journey of camaraderie and aspirations. That night, he walked into the community center, the soft hum of chatter meeting him like an old friend. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. As participants settled in, he realized that each face in the room reflected a unique journey, and that recognition quelled the remnants of insecurity. "I want to start today's discussion by recalling why we're all here," Tom began, meeting the gaze of each attendee, grounding himself through their shared energy. "We're not just here to develop skills. We're here to learn, to inspire, and to uplift one another. Let's connect through our vulnerabilities instead of hiding them." The group responded with thoughtful exchanges, and as the discussion evolved, Tom found himself facilitating not just a workshop, but guided conversations around the interplay of struggle and success. He watched as attendees opened up, shared their fears, and celebrated incremental victories, each moment reinforcing the realization that they weren't alone. Tom immersed himself in this role, constantly reflecting on the duality of leadership and vulnerability, and how they intertwined beautifully. The messages of support from his online community began to shape the environment within the group, creating a culture that thrived on authenticity and empathy. Weeks turned into months, and soon his mentorship program became a beacon of hope in the community. Tom's confidence flourished as he welcomed guest speakers to the sessions, sharing insights about their journeys. With every step, he transcended the limitations he had once perceived. He was becoming a role model, not just in knowledge, but in resilience. One evening, after a particularly impactful discussion, Tom received an email inviting him to speak at a regional engineering seminar. The request ignited a wave of disbelief and excitement. This was a true acknowledgement of his growth and a chance to inspire a broader audience. Would he accept? After a few moments of contemplation, he replied with an affirmation. It was time to embrace the stage, share his story on a larger platform, and inspire others who stood at the precipice he had once faced. As the day of the seminar approached, Tom stood before the mirror again, this time with a decidedly different air. The man reflected back was not just a mechanic turned engineer. He was an innovator, a facilitator of growth, and a voice for those listening for their moment of truth. When he stepped onto the stage, the audience welcomed him with an anticipatory silence. Years ago, I was cast aside in a garage, but little did I know that this dismissal was my gateway to self-discovery, he began, his voice steady and strong. As he shared his journey, recounting the emotions and challenges, he watched as the faces in the audience shifted from attentive to immersively engaged. Every word poured from his heart, not merely reciting experiences, but inviting them to reflect on their personal struggles. The room filled with an electric energy, people leaning forward, absorbing the authenticity he presented. Tom concluded his speech with a heartfelt reminder. Every setback serves as a setup for a comeback. Embrace your vulnerabilities. Only through embracing them can you open the door to infinite possibilities. As the applause resonated through the venue, he soaked in the collective warmth, feeling not only a sense of achievement, but a profound connection. This was the culmination of his transformation, the acknowledgement of his growth, and the validation of his contributions. He left the stage not just as a speaker, but as a champion of authenticity, carrying with him the realization that every fear faced had fostered profound growth, a promise fulfilled within himself, an ongoing journey of exploration ahead. In that concluding moment, Tom felt the satisfaction of a job well done. He conquered every doubt and emerged fully realized, showing that true personal achievement was never an endpoint, but a continuous evolution, a testament to the human spirit. Don't wait. You need to subscribe now to be a part of these transformative stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this journey. Comment your thoughts and theories about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this evolution and inspire their own transformations. Your support matters more than ever.